Everybody.
Hello, everybody. I am Marshall, and above me is Joseph.
I think I'm below you, actually.
No, I am seeing what we're putting out to the world, and you're above
Oh,
me.
cool. I'm glad that I'm not privy to that. That's cool. You're just a guy in the back.
Yeah. And today we are going to be discussing the Oscar Oscar-worthy movie Battlefield Earth.
Oscar, indeed. I
What's
remember texting you whenever you were watching it and asking you how many Oscar nominations that thing pulled down that year. We should actually IMDb it and see what
what
movies were pulling
awards?
down Oscars that year.
It was year 2000. Golly, I can't believe it
I
was.
can't believe it. Well, I guess there's a plus side there, right? So the fact that this movie's 20 years old can kind of make up for some of the stuff. And if you think about like movies that were being made in the year 2000, then maybe this thing wasn't quite as off kilter as I might be giving it credit for.
Uh, I mean,
Am
I
I giving? Am
guess.
I showing too many of my cards?
I
Am I letting
I
the
think you're
audience
being I think
know
you're
how
being
I feel?
I think you're being pretty generous here.
I'm not a very good poker player. There's a reason I don't gamble. There's a reason I don't play poker. It's because I don't like losing money, and I can't very well hide it if I hate my hand or if I love my hand. So I'm pretty easy to beat at poker. So at someone's recommendation, I think it wasn't. Dang it, you're gonna have to remember his name. Was it
I can
Jesse?
pull it up.
Anyway,
J Ray 5.
J. Ray suggested when since we were kind of on a sci-fi kick that we check out this fantastic movie made in 2000 called Battlefield Earth, starring no less than John Travolta. Oh God!
Which something I've learned this past week is that Joseph is not a John Travolta fan.
That is not true. That is not true.
I guess I didn't
I
learn anything this week.
I loved John Travolta in um Grease. I love John Travolta. I mean, him and God, why am I having such a hard time? What's his biggest movie?
His biggest movie, Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I loved him in Pulp Fiction, of course. I loved him in Get Shorty. Get Shorty is one of my all-time favorites. I will watch that anytime.
Huh.
I'm not old enough to have enjoyed him in Saturday Night Fever. I even like the movie where he played a damn angel. But somewhere around, and I don't know what year it
An
was.
angel, you're you're getting your actors confused, my friend.
That is incorrect, sir.
Are you well, what movie are you talking
He
about
did
then?
play a fallen angel.
Are you talking about City of Angels with Nicolas Cage?
No, 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 no,
Okay, just
no.
making sure.
Michael. I think it's called
You're
Michael,
right. I forgot about Michael.
which
Right.
terrible movie, but not because of John Travolta. He played the role well.
Did you
He played the
see
role. He's
Phenomenon?
Vincent Vega, dude. I love John Travolta
Okay,
until
okay.
they made him a villain. I don't like him as a villain.
He's
He
in
got
the Look Who's
chubby and he
Talking
started to
now.
go
He's in your
bald.
Look Who's Talking movies, which you love.
Yeah, those have to be on the top of everybody's list. Man, that dude has been in some freaking movies, hasn't he?
He has.
The IMDb list. Damn. No, I like John Travolta. I think the
Okay.
problem is somewhere somewhere around Broken Arrow, somebody decided to make John Travolta a villain instead of a lovable guy. Even when he was even in Pulp Fiction, technically he's a bad guy. He's a hitman, but he's a lovable
I was
hitman.
gonna say he's not the villain though.
Exactly. When they made him the bad guy, he just doesn't carry that role for me. He doesn't pull off bad guy no matter how dark they dye his goatee or how ridiculous his costume, he just doesn't pull off villain for me.
There's a ridiculous movie.
Oh man, there's let's put it and let's be honest. Since Pulp Fiction was kind of where he was reborn, right? And
Mm,
like he was given a career again. And um, but the problem is, since Pulp Fiction, they've given him a lot of bad roles.
hmm
You know what I mean?
I'm down with that.
Now, what's Pepper's name? What's Pepper's first name? He's the lead character in the movie.
Johnny Good. Oh,
Oh,
Barry Pepper.
Barry Pepper. I like Barry Pepper. Like if you on the Green Mile and True Grit and Saving Private. Oh my God,
He
I loved him
was
so
on the
much with
Green
Saving Private
Mile.
Ryan. On Saving Private Ryan, he was the sniper, the one that
Yeah,
would be like he was from the country and he'd be praying as he's shooting these guys.
that's right.
I mean, I love Barry Pepper is to me very underrated. I think he is a good actor. He's just they've never. This is probably as close as he's ever been to being a lead character. In the Green Mile, he was a very lovable, kind guard.
hmm
Played off of Tom Hanks really, really well.
Man, that
Um,
movie. That's a good movie.
all the field. If you don't get choked up in that movie,
Something wrong with you.
you're just an asshole. You know what I mean? I can say that on the internet, right? I mean, they put
You can
porn on the
say
internet.
anything on the
I
internet.
can say asshole on
You're
the
just
internet.
gonna get fired for Perkins and Will pretty soon, depending on what you say.
No, oh my gosh, that's a whole other story. Woo. Offline, remind me to ask me about my new holiday.
Okay.
So, where do you want to start?
I think we can start with I think this one is a good kind of overview one.
Yeah, this isn't going to be a deep dive because
No.
unlike so, if you were with us last week, we did two um,
hmm
2000 Space Odyssey. 2000 was it 2000?
2001.
2001 A Space Odyssey, and that required a lot of deep dive because that's an onion with many layers that has to be peeled back, and Kubrick is known for that. But let's just say there's not a lot of layers in the movie we picked to review this week. So I'm going to let Marshall start off, and I will follow your notes. How's that? I
Sure,
bet you
sure.
filled up a couple of pages worth on notes for this guy, didn't you?
No, I did not. I have a few lines, and most of them are just they're bad notes. A bad movie creates bad notes is all I can say. So Battlefield Earth for the uninitiated is post-apocalyptic 3,000 years or 1,000 years in the future, or I guess roughly the year 3000. And it starts with the narration, or I don't even remember if it was narration or if it was words, but man is an endangered species on the Earth. Aliens have taken over, presumably 1,000 years ago, and wiped off mankind from the face of the planet, except for a few that they keep as slaves, and then a few that have been able to hide out in radiated zones from nuclear bombs. The aliens are unable to go into the radiated zones because the radiation interferes with their atmosphere that they breathe, their version of oxygen, I guess. And so those are the only remaining humans alive, slaves and people who are hiding in irradiated zones.
Yeah,
So,
one thing I noticed when you first get introduced to who I guess you would call our star, but he's definitely our hero, Barry Pepper, right? Is he's very much in to me what I would call like maybe like a Neanderthal camp. Do you remember the movie where man, that was a really cool movie. They did it where it kind of went back and you saw how the slaves were taken out of the jungle and sent to Egypt to build the pyramids. Oh man, it was a pretty cool. I had to look that one up, but it had that similar feel to it. So it really, I mean, they're purely they don't. Some of them grunt. Some of the humans grunt rather than really talk. It really gives you the feeling like over that 1,000 years after the apocalyptic war with the aliens, the people that remained because they lost all technology, and so they reverted very much back to more Neanderthal like behavior. They're not even really farmers; they are hunters and gatherers,
Yeah,
and kind
which
of know.
which doesn't make sense in a lot of ways that we would lose all of our technology. It's not like the aliens used EMP pulses that rendered it all useless.
Although, if you listen to like uh, I was listening to Joe Rogan's stand up not too long ago, and he was doing a bit about like you wouldn't have to kill off, or well, his joke was actually like if we breed with just stupid people, right? It's not going to be long before nobody knows how to make cell phones anymore. He's like, I don't know how those things work. Do you
Yeah,
know how that works?
I definitely get
So
that.
you
I
you know
wonder about that
if
myself.
you killed off 90% of the population, you know, um, I don't know that the 10% left, unless you left some really smart, really ingenuitive folks, are going to figure out how to refine gasoline or how to mine coal and keep energy plants going, and
No,
much
I'm
less
down.
advancing new technologies. But I think there is some. I agree with what you're saying that you don't. You would think that you would keep your existing technologies fairly well working. I mean, obviously the internet would be gone, um, but as far as being able, I don't know. It's that's a pretty good question. As far as how far would society degrade before it
Right.
started to rebound?
And then, I mean, it is also over the course of 1,000 years, which if you look back 1,000
Right.
years from now, like 1,000 years ago, where was mankind on the technology list? So that you wonder
But then you
how far we could have regressed and then even come back.
Well, and I think that's the question though, is if you look at where we were 1,000 years ago. So imagine the year 1,000, right?
Right.
That's before the Renaissance, right? That's probably Dark Ages, maybe. So not very advanced, okay? Um, and it took us a few thousand years to get to that level. So this the leaps and bounds and the strides that we've made over the last 1,000 years are vastly more improved than even the 3 or 4 thousand years before that.
For
So
sure. For sure.
at least it,
Anyway,
at least this movie sparked it that much conversation, and
it's
that's saying
more than I
something.
was expecting.
We may have to go back to that one because this review might not last very long. But
Oh
so you
man.
were you were saying, so we've gone through the apocalypse. You've been introduced to the apocalypse, and now they show you
Our hero.
our hero, and they talk about the monsters. They introduce you to the monsters, and
Hmm.
so and that's really all the human, what they call them, human animals.
Man
That's what
animals.
man animals. That's really all they refer them to them the whole time in the film, is that they were the monsters.
Right.
So let's take it.
Yeah, so he lives in our hero lives in an area that was irradiated, so they haven't seen his generation hasn't seen the aliens. They
Right.
have legends of the monsters that destroyed the world, and you can't go outside the gates, and
Mm-hmm.
if you go too far, then you'll be killed. And so our hero is, got the hero syndrome of being different and thinking different, and he refuses to believe in these monsters or the gods. He believes in what he can see. So
Yep.
he says, we need to venture out and get more food because they're just living in the small area. And so he leaves on his little mission and runs into a couple of kind of nomads. And he trades some food that he hunted for some information with the nomads, asking him to take him to see the monsters or the gods that walk the earth. And so they get him close enough, and they're all enjoying a dinner, and some of the aliens show up and use their guns on stun to capture the humans, which Joseph's gonna hate this comparison, but there is the scene where he gets shot and he's like slow mo falling through glass. I'm gonna have to turn this.
Ah,
I'm gonna have to turn this background off. It's too distracting for me.
yours is?
Yeah, look at this.
It's amazing.
All right, I'll leave it
It's only when you're
on.
it's almost as good as the CG that they used on Battlefield Earth.
Hey man, I was
For
20.
those that don't know, we got a new logo and we are excited about that. And we would gladly share the information for the young man's name that put that together for us, but we don't have it. So we might share it next week.
That's
Uh,
right. We'll have a more professional presentation, a more professional but not very professional presentation of our logo next week. Anyway, so like I said, you're gonna hate this comparison. There's the slow-mo scene
oh, I'm ready.
of him going through the glass in the mall after he gets shot, which brought me back to the OG Blade Runner,
Oh, no, that's too much.
where our hero in that movie is shooting one of the androids and she falls through the glass in slow-mo.
The hooker.
Yes. And I mean,
What in the hell is wrong with you? How did you did not put Battlefield Earth and Blade Runner in the same sentence, even for a second? Yeah, you did.
I can't find it. I had it pulled up earlier today. I was going to send it to you, but you're in the
Oh,
OAC.
I've seen it. I know exactly what happened. No, there is a good point about that. So much as we one thing we talked about when we did 2001 was we accredited 2001 for being somewhat ripped off or honored in so many sci-fi movies that came after it, and one movie that apparently had no problem picking up what other people had done and making it their own was Battlefield Earth.
Yeah, no
There
problem.
are very many recognizable conversations. There are very many recognizable situations. There are very many recognizable sequences, much like that falling through the glass one. You know, it's not often that you're looking. You, a surprise is rare to come.
Yeah, and so I think that leads into one of my first notes I took though was, oh no, that's not my first note. Oh man.
That bad.
Yeah, my notes are that bad. It did remind me though, I think I just typed this out to you when I was watching it, but I was like, this movie really just kind of, it starts off surprisingly fast paced.
See, what I thought was interesting was it started off with the pace that it should,
Hmm.
with Barry Pepper at the in the hut talking to the elders, which is like every other scene of that nature ever
Right.
you've seen.
Well, like a lot of stuff happens in that first scene too, beyond just him, like all the
Yeah,
exposition stuff. There's like
sure.
that was actually my first note. As you're introduced to Pepper, he went to go get medicine for his dad. While he was out getting medicine, his dad died.
Mm.
And so my first note is the hero's father dies, so he throws away perfectly good medicine. Because of course he has to rage. It just goes, "Ah!"
Oh,
So like it feels like in the first 10 minutes his dad dies, you find out his mom's already dead, he leaves his girlfriend back at his house, he argues with the elders about their whole past, and then he goes off and meets these nomads, and then he gets in this confrontation with the aliens. It all is a lot to happen pretty quick.
and and why does it have to be in a mall?
I don't know.
And why is the mall still standing? And why does the mall still have mannequins after 1,000 years?
I don't know,
After
but
a
I did
thousand years?
I did love
Come on.
they were pretty well preserved.
Everything in this movie was let me not
That's
jump too far ahead, but don't forget the 1,000-year-old jet airplanes that start right up.
That's jumping too far ahead. You're just
By the
picking
way,
on the low.
they're about 1,050 years old because they're already 50 years old.
You're just picking at the low hanging fruit right now, so you don't get to jump ahead for
That's okay.
that. Oh man.
So then the real story starts, right? So at that point, um, now the two random characters that Barry has picked up along the way, and Barry, our hero, um, are picked up and put in a cage that is hanging from, let's call it, a Batman style jet plane uh, joke. That,
Let
anyways,
me stop you there real quick.
sorry.
So my last note was when he left his girlfriend, she called him a greener.
A what?
A greener.
Oh, because grass is always greener.
Right. And my first note, well, not my first note, but my note on that was like, you arrogant greener, whatever the heck that means, right? And then I
Right.
was shocked. I was shocked. They did something that I did not expect them to do, is they explained what that meant in the movie, where
Oh,
he was talking to his two nomad friends before the aliens come, and he explains it. Whereas he's someone who always assumes the grass is greener on the other side, so his tribe calls him a greener,
right.
and they actually call him a greener throughout the movie
Yeah.
too. But I was stunned because I wrote down that note fully expecting to never get an actual explanation of what greener meant.
Wouldn't that be funny? We're just gonna throw out a new label that nobody's ever heard of, and then
Yeah,
just never tell you what it means.
because
Uh,
supposedly it's based on a book, so that could have definitely happened. But
so they the prisoners are then taken to Colorado, which is of course where any I guess, how original is this? The aliens from the other planet that have stayed after defeating most of the humans. Of course, I'm sure they brought lots of aliens, and then they left a small few. And then ones that they left, why did they come to Earth? Of course, it's to rape and pillage for our natural resources that are available on this planet.
it's all
Anybody
right.
care what
Our
resource that is?
gold, baby.
Gold. Come on.
Be
At
more,
least make it
be
uranium,
more
or
original. No, it's
something
ironically
that
the
somebody can use for
uranium. They're
fuel.
allergic to the uranium.
Right. But I mean, anyways, um, I didn't think that was the most creative thing that they could be farming or mining, but that's okay. Uh,
You'll
I
forgive
mean,
them.
I mean, as much as I can forgive most of this movie, why not? And then we are introduced to our real hero, John Travolta. Yeah,
John Travolta.
Saturday Night Fever. Jesus. And I'll let you go from there.
So we get introduced to old Travolta, excuse me, in a great way, where they get dropped off at alien headquarters in Colorado, and our hero, human hero, runs away. Or no, he steals a gun, shoots one of the aliens, and then drops the gun for some reason, and then runs away, and ends up running right into John Travolta's feet because A, the aliens are huge, and B, of course, he trips right before he gets to John Travolta and lands at his feet. So John Travolta, carries him back to the two guards who were bringing bringing the aliens in, and John Travolta's like, "Why is this one running free? You can't even keep control of
Like,
him." Like, and then he sees
because
the
he
dead body.
shot one of the other
And he
guards.
sees the dead body on the grave. He's like, "What happened here?" And the guy's like, "Well, the guy picked up the gun and shot the other guy." And John Travolta's like,
That's
"Dude,
ridiculous. The dumb human animal doesn't shoot guns.
that's impossible." To us, I guess that would be like a rat picking up a pistol and shooting another human being.
Or a large piece of pizza and dragging it up the stairs at the subway.
And so he tells this guard, he gives him his gun, and then he goes try to take it back from him. And the guard's like, "But he's gonna shoot me. Like I just saw him do
Like,
it."
gotta stop.
And Travolta says, "If you don't do it, I will definitely shoot you." So your chances are better to try to get it from.
So I'll
So
be
of
damned.
course he reaches for it, gets shot, and Travolta just says, "Well, I'll be damned."
Be dying. We got us a smart monkey over here. And thus the deep dive begins. I can't use the soundboard. I'm upset.
Why you changed it over here?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you
I
did.
don't
You
think
put it on this
no,
tab.
I don't think I did.
You did.
See?
You just did it.
No, that wasn't me.
Yes, it was. It must be different
Oh,
from where it must. Your mouse must be in two different locations. Like
I don't
how?
have two mice.
No, you know how on Turner's screen when Smith would try to do that.
No,
Which one are you trying to do?
it doesn't matter.
Don't do the top one. Do one lower down.
Oh, okay. So now I'm relegated to just the low ones. I'm missing. Look at that. I'm like a whole cube down. I got it. Okay. I got how to track it now. Don't mind me. You
All
guys
right,
just
you
do.
can see it highlight now.
I got it.
Do you feel in charge?
No, Travolta's in charge, apparently.
Apparently,
Oh, but he's not. He's not in charge
he's
because there's a dude with a neck. The old guy
like a
looked like,
toad.
oh, it's so nasty. It looked like testicles, or looked like like a 9 pound scrotum hanging from his neck.
It looked
It's
like
like the guy
the
from
balls on South Park when they had their
it's like
cancer balls.
yeah, it's like the guy from uh, Pirates of the Caribbean, but not nearly as well done.
The octopus guy?
Yeah, the squid dude, and he had the big yeah. Anyways, continue.
So let's see what happens from here. A bunch of small stuff, he gets taken to the cages. He shows that he is a dominant fighter and thinker to all the other dumb man animals that are slaving away at this place.
Yeah, so what it makes you believe is that maybe which they never dive into a whole lot, but it makes you believe that for some reason the village that Pepper came from, they were maybe a little better thinkers. They maybe didn't devolve as much as the more nomad and like the people because the ones that you see that are in the encampment, the ones that you saw out in the wild, they're all pretty,
Hmm.
not.
Yeah, things get exciting, and Pepper's best friend starts going.
They kind of get that monkey thing going. As soon as they get really excited, they revert back. So that's kind of why I was playing with that Neanderthal word earlier. But I think that one of the interesting things was so it, it's not as much that they make you think that Barry Pepper is special, right?
Hmm.
As much as it is he just came from a little more highly evolved or less devolved, I guess you might say, tribe that where because they all communicated well, they all spoke well, they were
Right,
all, I don't know that they could read, but they had not devolved to the point of so.
right.
Anyways,
And it was very
the next 20
reminiscent.
minutes is kind of slow.
There's
You
some
start,
politicking going on the alien
yeah,
side. That's
character building at that
character
point.
building, yeah. So
Who's the
it's
good guy of the bad guys, right? Of
right.
the monsters,
Or who's
who's
the
the real
bad
monster,
guy? Yeah, who's the
right?
bad guy of the bad guys? So you
And
find out,
Travolta's a dick.
yeah, so that's actually one of my
Spoiler
notes.
alert.
My notes is everybody that's an alien is a dick.
Well, they're either so intimidated that they're pitiful, or they're just rude, right?
Right,
Like even his best man, Forrest Whitaker, which an Academy Award winner, by the way. Um, Even Forrest Whitaker is kind of a coward, but he's also a backstabbing
right,
turd.
right.
The bartender that's been feeding Travolta information for years is also just a whiny, sniveling bee. Um,
So yeah, all these people like have
Travolta's
these like
boss
super
and the
they
officials that come from the old planet
they're all
also really dig.
douches. Like apparently
And they're
they
even mean. They're not just mean to the slaves; they're mean to each other.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
everybody taking shots and being mean to Travolta, even though he's supposed to be like the number two guy on the
on the
whole.
planet. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of wild to watch the social interactions of the alien species.
So,
But anyway, so to summarize the real quick and dirty, Travolta was supposed to get promoted up out of being the Earth security officer, move on to bigger and better things. Forrest Whitaker was supposed to take over as his number two, but then things go south for Travolta. The guy from their home planet comes in and takes a big dump on his dreams, and then laughs in his face about it. And so Travolta, who there's a great scene I like where Travolta, who had just got done taking his own dump on the bartender, is at the bar drinking his his sorrow away, and
green drink.
the bartender's like, "Hey, how come you haven't left yet?" And he's like, or like, you're still here, and he's like, "Yeah, no shit."
Yeah,
Bartender, and then he's like, "Give me some drinks to go. Like, I'm not gonna put up with any more abuse today." The bartender's he's
especially not from you.
put it on my tab. The bartender's like, "What are you talking about?"
You don't have a tab here. We'll start one.
And then we eventually get to where Travolta finds out that Forrest Whitaker was planning on making this big announcement of gold that they had found in a recon mission after Travolta had left. And he's like, I thought you wouldn't mind, which, I mean, I think Travolta honestly wouldn't have minded because he's moved on to bigger and better things.
Absolutely.
But now he's staying, and so, Forrest Whitaker gets kind of caught in his little deception here of hiding this to make himself look good once he's the new security chief or whatever it is.
Over.
And then
Indeed.
we have our very own. This is where we're gonna devolve end our careers right here, Joseph. From what I'm about to say, so I apologize, but Forrest Whitaker needs to start his own little Black Lives Matter movement on the alien Earth because he gets beat by his white boss in the
No doubt.
office. John Travolta takes a stick and just starts clubbing him over this gold thing. And I was like, oh shit.
Oh, it's not only that this movie couldn't be made today, it's just like nobody would.
Oh
It's
yeah, it's just not even worth it. There's so much better stuff to be doing with your time.
I will say one of the highlights and also a low light uh, was the tongue that was that long on the hoochie alien.
Who apparently did unspeakable who
It
apparently
is
did
like
unspeakable
get
themes
them
with the
here.
head of the planet to get some information. Mr. Net Guy.
Neck balls, neck balls.
Anyway, so then John Travolta, before he beats him, he also makes fun of Forrest Whitaker because the gold is somewhere where they can't mine.
Yes.
She like it the way you dictate.
That lady did seem to enjoy tasting things.
All the way up the back, down the corner. Wait.
uh,
Oh my God. You know what clip we need to add?
what?
We don't have this from Tropic Thunder. Remember the one about pork the shaft? Never
Uh,
forget the ball.
swallow the gravy.
One of the great. Pull that up real quick. We've got to watch that clip. I mean, it's that clip. That 7-second clip is better than this entire fucking movie. That's not untrue. So while Marshall's busy, I'm going to fill you guys in on a little bit about Battlefield Earth. Well, maybe not.
It makes a guy feel pretty small. This could be the last time we look at these stars.
Man, that's beauty. Nights like tonight make a man wonder what it's all about.
Hey
Oh
guys,
no,
anybody
this
got
one.
some bug spray?
Don't ignore me.
Great.
Stick it out, man.
Don't ignore me.
You're gonna get through this.
Hey, Kirk,
Yeah.
are you still
Yeah,
dating?
don't care about there.
Hey guys, I'm good. I made it through. You can untie me now.
Funny, huh? Circus life to a girl that can hang with that, you know. Not one worth keeping, no how.
Hey, Radar. Elvins.
There you
No, it's Kevin.
Kev, whatever the fuck. Come over here. I didn't tell you, but Fatty's Fart 3 is coming down the pike. And there's a roll in there for you. If you come over and untie me.
Jeff, you're just going to have to tough it out.
Your mother's a cankerous whore!
Jesus, man.
Hey, man. Remember way back when I said your mother was a cankerous whore? I'm sorry, man. I did not mean that. She's not.
How about you, man? You got some little minx waiting for you on the other side of tomorrow.
Me?
Oh, you gotta go through that.
No. It's complicated.
No. Lance.
That sounded like Lance.
No, I said Nance. That's what I said, Nance.
It sounded like Lance.
Look, I'm Al Pacino, okay? I love the pussy, all right?
I love the
Lay your
pussy.
ass back down and look at the stars.
Right?
When you wrote I Love to Pussy, was you thinking of dangling your dice on Lance's forehead?
No, hell no. What? Come on, look.
Man, everyone's gay once in a while.
I'm not gay. How about we do this? How about we all get back to work?
Okay.
This is ridiculous.
Cool.
We got a big day tomorrow.
Gravy.
Get focused.
Alpha, if you untie me, I will literally suck your dick right now.
I told you for the last time, I love the pussy.
I'll cradle the balls, stroke the shaft, work the pipe, and swallow the gravy. Get it over here, buddy. Let's do this.
Get it over here, buddy. Let's do it. I swear to God, that was better than a whole 2 series that it took to sit through this movie. So let me get to the fun parts of the movie. Because we really
I can do a real quick 5-minute synopsis to get us to most of the fun parts, or less than that. So,
let's do this.
So old Travolta, like the aliens can't mine this newfound gold. So Travolta comes with the idea to get
Can I interrupt for just a second? Because there is a semi Travolta inspired clip on our soundboard. May I share?
Go for it.
Oh, come on, Caleb.
Listen, yeah.
Continue.
So Travolta gets the idea to have the man animals mine the gold.
Right, because this weird outcropping that they found that he made fun of Forrest Whitaker. He's like, "Oh, great, you found all this gold. But it's in one of those radiated areas where we can't work, but the humans can. But the space aliens believe that the humans are too dumb to work mining equipment. So continue. I'll quit interrupting.
That's all right. And so then Travolta puts our hero, who's shown an aptitude for kind of being more smarter than the average man animal, into this learning machine, which I don't care what you say, man. I love the little alien at the beginning of this learning machine who's like, if you're listening to this right now, the silos have killed me and my entire race and my family, which sucks, but I'm here to teach you their language.
Fucking stupid.
So then he sits there and learns for a while. He learns enough to communicate. He, figures out some stuff around the house, and they end up a few rigmaroles and stuff happen, and then they end up mining. He takes flying lessons. So they fly a couple of those big old ships out there, and
which he masters in like a day, by the way.
And they get to mining, or do they?
Kinda. Or do they? Or are they sneaking off to Fort Knox, Kentucky? This part kills me. Okay, so Travolta sends all these dudes out there, and what he has is a drone that passes by every now and then to film these guys to make sure that they're actually mining and that they're not running off. But apparently the drone doesn't come by very often because there is enough time for Barry Pepper and his boys to go all the way to Kentucky to Fort Knox and steal the gold that apparently nobody touched in the last years after 1,000 years after the alarm was turned off. And apparently the aliens are too dumb to know it's just sitting right there. And they bring it back. And here's the best part. after they're out there for a week, I think there's a 2 week period that they have total. After the first week, the first delivery is due to Travolta. So he shows up, and guess what? Barry's got gold for it. He's got a lot of gold, and it's all shaped like bricks. And he asks, "Why did you do that?" And Barry goes, "I just figured anybody as smart as you wouldn't accept it any other way." To which, of course, he responds, "Well, you should be able to mine the gold faster if you took enough time that you and your buddies smelted this stuff down and turned it into blocks." Smelted it with what?
I know.
These,
Look around. There's not even a fire at the camp.
yeah.
I noticed that too.
And that just, I mean, that's just a one of 1,000 times that this movie just flat out shits the bed and doesn't even bothers to try to explain it to you. It's just like, we're going to accept that and move on. All right, next.
I know, and then there's other stuff where they really try to set other stuff up. Like
Right.
earlier in the movie, John Travolta, like his office has this arch, and so he
Yep.
runs into the side of the arch, and
With
he's
his
like,
oblong head.
and he's like, I thought I told you to get some man animals in here to fix that. And then, the next scene, they're in the office, and that's when he's figuring out like what the access code is. And
But they had to go through the trouble of creating the reason for those guys to be in there with the arch. And
right,
so somebody thought about it.
right.
But then somebody else in the writing process was like, what if they just get the blocks from Fort Knox, man? The security's there. Like, oh, yeah, man, that's cool. How are you going to explain it? You wouldn't expect them to take it any other way, right? Cool.
Yeah.
See.
Eh.
And we're on to bigger things. We got to figure out how to teach these monkeys to fly Harrier jets, but that's another thing later.
Yep. So then he comes back. He's got the delivery. He's like, "Oh crap! John Travolta only gave us another week to finish. So
Gotta go back to Kentucky.
So we have a week to figure out how we're gonna defeat the aliens."
The plot in this thing is just thick, man. So what we're led to believe is these human animals,
These human
that only
Neanderthals.
one of the gang speaks.
Even
The other creatures, only one of them speaks human. Much less, only one of them speaks the same language as the aliens.
only
right?
one of them knows geometry.
So they are going to, in 1 week, they're going to figure out not only how to kill either kill or capture all the aliens on the Earth, but also have devised a plan for blowing up the aliens' entire planet.
Yeah, well, I mean,
1 week.
because if you destroy all the aliens on Earth, they're just gonna send
Don't get me wrong.
other aliens.
I understand why they had to do it. I just can't accept the fact that they figured out how to do it in a week.
He's the Einstein of their generation. What can I say?
He is apparently 1 in 1,000 years comes along like this.
I mean, if you look at it over those odds,
I hope they made. If they should have done a second one where Barry Pepper gets to be king of the earth,
and then he becomes a dick.
and then he lets John Travolta out of the cage, and they become a friend. Because Travolta's character is very trustworthy. Continue on with the madness.
Super dick. So then in that time, they so I guess in the course of a week, his friends go from seeing the what is it? The training module, the simulator.
Oh God!
The simulator for the Harriers, and try to poke it with their spears. So 1 week you can go from that to flying the Harrier.
Not only flying, but knowing how rockets work, missiles. Oh, and remember, all this technology and all these machines have been sitting dormant for 1,000 years. And nobody's made jet fuel in 1,000 years. And I'm pretty sure that stuff can't sit around and be good for that long. But maybe I'm a little too technical.
Obviously, also somehow no one's been generating power for 1,000 years, but this place powers up very nicely.
But yeah, exactly. So where did the electricity? It's just it's too much. What I was telling Marshall earlier was, one thing I really like about science fiction, especially good science fiction movies, is they give. Of course, you have to make some really long stretches. You have to use your imagination. It cannot all be realistic if you're doing science fiction. That's the science and the fiction. But usually it's grounded in some science that at least makes sense or that at least gives you the illusion that it's possible so you can grab a hold of it. Again, look at 2001 A Space Odyssey. Except for the really weird shit the director goes off on strange tangents, all that other shit's based in math. Look at Ex Machina, which we also did recently. Everything in that makes sense. All that can be done. So when somebody when somebody makes a movie where there's no basis of reality and there's no real good place to, you know what it is, this is an action movie. That's what it is. It's not a science fiction movie, it's an action movie. It's Judge Dredd. It's what was that horrible, it's Tango and Cash, except there's aliens and they hook you with the idea of science fiction, but really it's it's Broken Arrow all over again. It's an asshole with a power trip, and there's the good guy coming up from below. And they really just sprinkled in the fact they just sprinkled in, the only way you're going to watch another Tango with Cash or another Broken Arrow is if maybe we make them aliens fighting the good guys, which are it can't be Russia versus the U.S. again. We've done that one to death. So it's got to be Independence Day, but retarded. You're not allowed to say retarded. I'm sorry.
I still say it.
It's because you're retarded. And that's how you work comedy right there. You bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back.
So please continue.
I'm surprised we don't have a retarded on here, to be honest.
I believe you were mocking my. We do. We got full retard.
There it is. I was like, I know we have one. Thank you.
Never go full retard.
So my okay. So go back. So I'm going to end this. Okay. So what ends up happening?
No. Before you end it,
I'm so close.
you were close. There's the part where they're getting ready for the final battle, and I don't care how much knowledge you've gotten from the aliens and how many books you've read. Within a week, our hero protagonist is successfully disassembling a hydrogen bomb.
This is the same guy earlier that threw away good medicine because his dad died before the medicine got there, and he just got ready to go, I'm gonna go find good food. Ooh, ooh.
Just gonna throw this medicine over the cliff. Ah! Okay, now you can end it.
Okay, so here's how it works. So imagine, God, it's just so hard. So one thing that they did introduce earlier, which gives you the understanding of how they attempt to, they're going to destroy the alien planet, is apparently these guys are masters of teleportation. They don't know how to find the buckets and buckets of gold that are just sitting in Fort Knox, but they know how to teleport. So the concept is they're going to send a giant bomb in the shipment that was supposed to be the gold getting sent back to the home planet. They're going to send a giant bomb, and there's a guy, one of the poor monkeys, is going to go with it. He's got the button, and because it can't remotely detonate from God knows where,
or put a timer on it.
Or, yeah, put a timer on it. So one has to sacrifice himself for the greater good, and that's fine. I get that, but I don't get how simple it was. And what was really interesting was the way they graphically show it. This thing, appears on this planet. And the kid's there. He's like, ah, and the aliens are coming, and he hits the button, and boom. And apparently, their entire planet is made out of hydrogen because the whole thing goes up like the Hindenburg. The whole planet,
Yeah.
like
There ain't
you
no.
get scenes of boulders shooting out at you, which used to be the core of the planet. I mean, the one, anyways.
Yeah. The way they describe everything, which is the atmosphere, is what reacts to the bomb. It should just be left with a scorched wasteland. And
Right.
still no, the whole planet blows up like freaking Alderaan.
Exactly. Like the Death Star took it out. And at least the Death Star's got some, I mean, it's pulling energy from the sun, these guys had some TNT in a bucket. Anyways, and while this is going on, our hero and his cohorts are expertly flying Harrier jets that are 1,000 years old, that they had 3 days of training in the simulator, and knocking out these alien space jets with pristine accuracy. And I think maybe they lost one Harrier jet, but all the rest of them made it just fine, which is pretty good odds considering. Regardless, as you all well can guess, the humans win. Of course they do. Against
depending on what
stronger
side,
odds than in the movie 300. Okay.
but depending on which side you're on, could make it a better movie to you than Avatar. Because the humans win.
Touche to that. Oh, that's cool. My son was bringing me something to show me that he's working on for his birthday, which is tomorrow. I love it.
Wyatt's birthday's
Sorry
tomorrow? Happy birthday, Wyatt.
Marshall said happy birthday, Why? As does the whole internet. I'm sure everybody's wishing you happy birthday.
The whole internet here watching us.
So the and again, so regardless, we win. The humanoids win, and
humanoids. They're the humans.
So the humans win, and let's see. So then there's the face-off scene that has to happen, good versus evil, right? And so, of course, of all the aliens that died or were captured, we get to have the face-off between Barry and Travolta. And of course, Travolta's still got one. He thinks he's got one trick up his sleeve, and it's his second in command, Forrest Whitaker. And of course, as you know, Forrest turns, and he now it makes friends with Barry, because apparently he's not going back to his 5 wives on the original planet. He's fine and happy staying here, and the revolution is over. The bad we did. I'm going to let you have the bad joke. Every movie like this has to end with that one bad joke, so I'm going to let you have that one.
No. You get it, because I want to say something else.
So the scene ends with so now Travolta's last hope is hit the guy that had been a dick to the entire movie, who obviously turns on him, Forrest Whitaker, but he goes, hey, at least you got your gold. And of course they pan away, almost like you pan away in Raiders of the Lost Ark and see how the box was left amongst thousands of other boxes in complete oblivion, and nobody ever is going to even do any research on it. But you're panning away from Travolta in his open air cell, pulling back, and it's surrounded by just crates and crates and crates.
They locked him inside Fort Knox.
All the gold of Fort Knox, and he gets to gander at it from the other side of the bars. And I guess they're just going to leave him there and never feed him or anything. But
so 2 things to that. First of all, I'd say that you could argue that they set up Forrest Whitaker being okay with his lot in life of living out his days on Earth.
Sure.
Because he's, it's always funny, like old Travolta's ready to murder everybody because he's stuck as head security officer on Earth. And Forrest
Mhm.
Whitaker's assistant to the head security officer on Earth. And he's like, "Your job seems pretty cushy to me." Like
Beats the
that.
hell out of my
He's like,
job.
"That was supposed to be my promotion." And and obviously he seems to enjoy the idea of being able to fire his 5 wives. So they do set that up a little bit. And then apparently silos don't really care very much about losing limbs.
Right.
Forrest
That's
Whitaker
something that
had his
bothers them
hand
after
shot
all.
off, and John Travolta had his arm blown off, and everyone
Yeah.
just kind of goes, "Ooh,
Keep on chugging.
dig."
Yeah. Not even like, ah!
Not even
Nothing.
painful, just,
Hmm.
crap.
That's inconvenient. That's inconvenient. I'm gonna have to learn to type left hand. One thing I did find pretty interesting about it is also of the aliens left alive. Um, we know of two for sure, Whitaker and Travolta. I don't know what they did with the others. I don't know if they were. It just doesn't show what
I think
happened
we
with
can
them.
assume they were slaughtered.
Well, none of them seemed that upset about the news that their entire planet had been destroyed, which I understand why they did it. That's also a pretty drastic move. Like I know they weren't. I know those aliens weren't necessarily nice to humans, but um, our hero decided to make an entire race
Exterminate
of
a species,
and
basically.
exterminated an entire species right out of space just because he'd been done wrong for what looked like about 3 weeks. His whole life had been inconvenienced in less than a month.
That's
But
true.
good for him.
3 weeks ago, he was living in the mountains with his girlfriend. So,
That's what I'm saying.
which I did
He didn't put up with
appreciate.
that shit for very long. I can tell you that.
I did appreciate the first one of the first nomads he meets saying like, "You left a woman."
Yeah. Is she good looking? Where is she? Can I go there? And you're like,
Can I go see her?
left a perfectly good woman in the mountains. Where in the mountains?
Oh no, which direction?
It is over there. Oh, so before we give thumbs up or thumbs down, if anybody asks me if you should spend the hour and a half required or hour and 45 minutes required to watch this movie, my answer is
Yeah, it's a surprisingly long movie. It is almost
it's a,
2 hours.
but I will give them credit because, like you said, they started off fast and they threw a lot of shit at you. Like there isn't a moment's rest in this entire movie.
There
Like there
really
is not a
isn't like
really
there's not a lot of dull spots
there's
for the
not a
most
dead
part.
spot where you can just be like, this is a good time to go grab some chips. I don't need this part. Like everything's moving pretty fast, mostly because in a 3 week period of time, we changed the entire piece of Earth
Yeah.
and destroy an entire planet. So it's
I
great.
did one of the things we didn't talk about that I had a note on that I wanted to talk about was when they John Travolta and Forrest Whitaker were so smug about how smart they were to let the people go, and then they would find out what motivates them by finding out what their favorite food was.
That was awesome.
That's I think my most enjoyable part of that movie
Yeah,
is
because and I love how and because once they set that hook right, that apparently they like to eat live rats. Well,
right.
no, they were starved. They eat anything, right? Um, so from then
Yeah,
on,
they've been they've been
Barry
searching.
is now a rat brain.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been running away for 3 days. Haven't found any food. The aliens literally don't understand that they're just purely running away to get as far away from the aliens as possible. And that they literally can't find food. They just think that food's aplenty on Earth for the man animals, and so the first second they get, they're gonna stop and eat their most favorite meal. Like they're gonna go down to the Outback Steakhouse and order their favorite steak.
It's blooming onion time.
But oh wait, no, these are man animals, and so they catch
Speaking
them.
of that's our new sponsor by the way,
Yeah.
Outback Steakhouse.
And so they catch a rat. They don't even have a fire to cook it, so they have to eat it raw. And none of them are enjoying it. But the aliens, John Travolta's like big brain time over here. Their favorite food is raw rat. Forrest Whitaker's like, they didn't even cook it. I can't believe it.
Because they love it so
That's
much.
so gross. And Travolta's like, look how slow they eat it. Like they enjoy it so much.
I found the ass end!
And so like you said, then on, Travolta calls him rat brain. But not only that, he's trying to like he's got him in the learning machine and he's trying to see if he'll talk to him. He's holding a dead rat up to him like, you want to eat?
Yeah, you want some of that? Do you?
He
Do
just
you?
doesn't understand. It's like, I'm presenting you with your favorite food.
Like delicacy, anyone?
We're making a pizza.
I forgot that one. Oh, damn. This movie's so bad.
uh, but yeah, at least it's not. There's definitely movies out there where you're like watching it and you're like, wow, it's been a half hour and literally nothing's happened and I'm ready to fall
That's true.
asleep. So at least it didn't do that to us.
I mean, I think you put it best when we were chit-chatting back and forth over text that if you take this one as, let's just put it like this: if you like to smoke weed and you don't like to pay attention, you don't like a movie that you have a whole lot of characters to keep up with or a plot line that's jumping all over the place and really challenging, but you really just want to be entertained for an hour and a half and you're baked anyways, give it a shot. It's not entertaining. Um, it does it will engage you the whole time. A lot of times you'll stop being like, what the fuck? But I mean, it
Can't
does at
it
least
can't
have a flow,
the movie itself can't handle the level of engagement it gives you.
right? There's just again, it's the problem is, and I didn't realize this till later, is it's not a sci-fi movie. It's not a sci-fi movie at all. Um, they don't give you any interesting things about
Oh no.
science or space travel or these. I mean, the villains, the aliens, are just bad humans with bad costumes on,
Oh, that was a point I wanted to make.
who have enslaved another race and are just, kind of rapey. And so, go ahead.
So I can't really show it very well, but you can see old John Travolta and Forrest Whitaker look very much like John Travolta and Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
But all the other men aliens are like grotesque, disfigured faces. I don't know if you noticed
Hmm.
that.
Yeah. Like ball chins.
Yeah, like you get the bald chin leader of the planet, like
Yeah.
the security guard that John Travolta jokes
Mhm.
about with has like, boils and scars and everything. They're just like all grotesque and stuff. But, the two people who you need to recognize, they look, there's like not a single blemish on their actual faces.
Yeah, it's like here is John Travolta, and they taped on some wicked eyebrows. Everything else that here is just John Travolta. It's too human. Again, again, it's an action movie. It's just an action movie, and I don't love action movies because they don't make you think. And
Ooh,
this movie doesn't even bother challenging anybody. So
no.
I
Yeah,
hated
what Joseph was
it.
referring to was I told him this is a turn your brain off movie.
Mhm. That's why I said. I mean, if you just want to get baked on a Saturday afternoon and it comes on, man, just you know, hit that pipe and sit back and enjoy it. But don't think too much because you will.
Shenanigans.
Oh yeah, so, it's it was a hell of a ride. I'll give it that.
It did, however, cause us to create a little rule for ourselves where we're making
Yeah,
we are going to make sure that we never do two bad movies in a row.
Now, that being said, Marshall and I do disagree on certain movies, whether they're good or bad, and those are okay as long as one of us has some kind of hope for it being a good movie. We'll put it on the next week, and we're going to find these duds here and there, and every now and then, one of our fans is going to suggest one, and we're fine with that. But it's and frankly, it was kind of entertaining. It was kind of entertaining to watch because you're like, this turd is so bad, I can just laugh at it instead of I wasn't terribly invested in it. You know what I mean?
Right. And it takes itself so seriously.
Which is what the thing that was blowing my mind the whole time is how much was the budget on
Oh, that's a good question.
it? Here's the thing: somebody paid for this movie, and I'm sure it grossed a bunch of money in the movie theaters as well.
Oh, it was a bomb according to this. Dude, that budget was $73 million.
Wow, that's insane.
Gross worldwide was only 30 million.
So, I mean, that's a pretty good indicator right there. That thing netted negative $40 million. It cost them $40 million more to make it than it earned in the box offices. There's a good reason for that. Because, word of mouth goes awful far in the year 2000. People started putting those rotten tomatoes at 0 stars, and all of a sudden it's like, not
Not gonna watch that movie.
gonna watch that one anyway.
What?
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 Then Travolta's over here.
This is an 81
That's what-
Honda. How dare you?
That what section is what it sounded like whenever they tried to explain to the producers that their $70 million movie only made 40. Like, hey, now we got to tell you, it's always a gamble.
You chose poorly.
Yeah, which is one of John Travolta's biggest talents is he is not real good at picking out a good script. He'll sign up for just about anything. Anywho, so what's next week?
All right, here's the list. Let's see if I can make it go. I don't know.
What are you leaning towards? What do you got? I know what I'm thinking.
I am thinking here, or y'all, which would be Inception, Interstellar, or Sunshine.
What's Sunshine?
That was the one we talked about last week that I showed you a clip from.
Oh, what about what is it? Ad Strada? Was that one on the list?
Ad Astra. It's not on the list yet.
I'm gonna go Inception.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's time to. I mean, listen, nobody's watching this anyway. So, but I don't want to get on a path of. I don't want us to be perceived as only watching sci-fi's.
Right.
So, and Inception to me is not sci-fi. I think it's more.
I wouldn't call it. Yeah.
What would you call that? Fantasy?
Maybe even drama. I wonder what IMDb class.
Drama, suspense.
Suspense.
And I need after all that dirty Travolta time, I need me some Leo time for sure.
I'm down with that.
Love me some Leo. I'll tell you what. When I was younger, I remember being a kid, and so first thing I ever saw Leo in was I think Eating Gilbert Grape, and then after that, like my little sister was in love with him because he was in Basketball Diaries, where he pretty much plays a total douche. And then everybody remembers his role in Titanic, right?
Yeah, it was Titanic, I think, where.
But somewhere, I don't know if I can remember the first movie that I watched him in. I think it was The Departed. I think The Departed was where all of a sudden I was like, fucking love this guy. And then of course Wolf of Wall Street, and then The Revenant,
Django.
and Django Unchained. Did you know that part where he was bleeding
Yeah.
was not on purpose, and that was his real blood, and he just kept running with it, and they were like, keep the cameras rolling.
Yeah.
Leo's on fire.
He was great, and Great Gatsby too.
The Great Gatsby was not only was it well acted, but it was beautiful. It was a visually beautiful spectacle of a movie.
Shutter Island.
Oh, I love Shutter Island. That was a very good film.
Catch Me If You Can, The Aviator. Jeez.
You know what? I think Catch Me If You Can was probably the first movie that I actually fell in love with him.
Yeah.
I went back later and saw Gangs of New York and enjoyed it, but I think Catch Me If You Can was the first time I looked at Leo as an adult, and then started to see Leo is a lot to me like Matthew McConaughey, in the sense that they were both young pretty boys, right? And took the Romeo and Juliet roles, took the key cheese,
literally for Leo,
low hanging fruit role, right? And where all they had to do was be pretty. And then, but both of them somewhere, towards, hitting their 40s, took on some darker, more interesting roles. Obviously, Leo did it way before and much better than Matthew has. But I really appreciate what Matthew McConaughey's done with kind of picking on those darker roles like Mud, and some of the really cool movies he's done. He took a lot of risks. Cause like, man, he went 20 years where he didn't do a movie without taking his shirt off. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, I'm proud of both of those guys, and it's funny though, because if you told me in the year 2000, hey, we're gonna go watch a Matthew McConaughey movie, I'd be like, nah, I'm good. Or in the year 1995, if you told me, hey, we're gonna go watch a Leo movie, I'd be like, nah, man, I'm good. But now, if you tell me one of those two guys is starring in a film, I'm in.
Right.
I am in, because I mean they've both just evolved so far, Sorry about that. That was like a little monologue there.
That's all right. I don't think anyone's gonna get too upset about.
I mean, there's only one other person here, so we're gonna be bigger than Elvis someday.
Okay.
I mean,
maybe
only because he's been dead so long.
Yeah, there's a chance like 40 years from now when we got 10 people watching, then
nobody knows who he is.
Nobody remembers Elvis. Then, yeah, maybe.
That the guy that did Thriller? Yes, that was him.
That'd be a sad day on so many fronts. All right.
Okay.
So let's rate it real quick.
Rate what?
Battlefield Earth.
I already did.
Okay.
Sure.
2 thumbs down.
Wait, hang on. Okay, so I need you to Google something. Do you remember Rick James? Dave Chappelle as Rick James, and he says, "I'm going to give those titties a 2 thumbs down." Give that one a shot.
That'd be good. We need more rating stuff clips.
Yeah. Go for videos. There it is. I wish I had more hands.
I wish I had more hands so I could give those titties 4 thumbs down.
And that is exactly how I feel about Battlefield Earth. I wish I had more hands so I could give it 4 thumbs down.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Do you know who was the director of Battlefield Earth? Because I have a special message for him as well, or her.
I saw it. It's a guy. I remember I saw it on the end when they did who the director was. Where are you? Where does it do this? It always does it in a different spot. Here it is. Roger Christian.
Oh, I have something for Roger. Can we go back to the soundboard? La 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 la. Fuck
fuck you. Fuck you. And fuck me. And fuck everybody.
Where does he coach now?
Washington.
Is he still UW?
And this is what Roger Christian is going to say back to us.
Oh shit! I got you good, you fucker.
No, that's what he said to the producer whenever they allowed him to spend $70 million of their dollars, and he only gave them back 35. He's like, got you good.
What? This guy's
Like,
career is so all over the place. It's
they're like,
hilarious.
nobody's casting Travolta anymore. Who is this?
This is our director.
Oh yeah. Oh, what do you got?
No, this is.
What's the best movie on the list? Underworld? Oh.
That's not the Underworld I know though, so that's good. I was about to be sad. I don't know. I haven't heard of anything.
Yeah.
Now, what's funny though is he has been involved with some bigger movies. Like for Star Wars Episode 4, he was the set decorator.
Which is probably what he used on his resume to get the job of being Battlefield Earth.
Right.
Man, I was on Star Wars, dude.
Well, supposedly Battlefield. So believe it or not, Battlefield Earth is supposed to be some sort of loosely based off of like Scientology. Crapola.
I'm not
At
familiar
the
enough
at the
to
very
even make
least,
fun of it.
it was based on a book, Battlefield Earth, written by L. Ron Hubbard, who's the same as the founder of Scientology. So I think that's how it got made.
Anyway.
Tom Cruise probably funded it.
I have seen Inception multiple times. I love it. It's I could start reviewing it right now, but I won't because I'm excited to watch it again. I like watching that one multiple times, kind of like when we were doing Ex Machina, because I think there's a lot of little nuggets that you don't pick up on the first time or two that you watch it. And the more times you watch it, the more some of that stuff makes sense.
Right. And
Go ahead. One thing I really loved about Inception was when they came back and did Shutter Island, it almost seemed like Shutter Island was some kind of a prequel. They were so closely tied together, and like how things thought, and how people thought, and how the delusions, and especially the delusions of grandeur, it was so perfect that they were the same actor and not too far apart in years. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to digging back into that one and looking at it with a critical eye and not just watching it for entertainment.
I'm too. I always look back on it knowing it's a really great movie. And then it's been a while since I've watched it, but I remember the last time I watched it, I was like, I flipped it on and it just felt like, snap, and it was over. It's just so, like, that movie just doesn't stop. It doesn't let up.
No, and it was like it's one of those funny movies. Like the first time you watched it, it felt like it took 4 hours because you're just soaking up so much.
There's so much, that you don't know that you're learning, and
you're just like this for for the whole 2 hours. But then, like you said, after you've seen it a couple of times, it just seems like it disappears.
Yeah, you're like, did I even?
It's already over.
Yeah, did I even blink during that movie?
And then,
like, it was just so fast.
And it's like it's got one of those. I would say M. Night Shyamalan endings but it is definitely one of those where you walk out, if you didn't walk out of the movie theater, or you don't, when you walk away from that and turn it off and you go to have a beer or whatever, if you don't say, what happened there at the end?
Right.
Is reality? Is this, is
I
this,
do enjoy
that?
the movies where you like come home and you're like still thinking about it. And then you're like, get online and you're like, okay, well, I need to Google this and see what other people say.
Yeah. What the hell are they saying about this? Because I don't get it. Or please tell me somebody said what the director was really trying to do, so I can be on that same wavelength. Because you could have 15 different conclusions at the end of that movie of what really happened at the end, or how, or throughout the whole thing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to digging back in. Well, I have talked your ear off, but I feel like it's been kind of a short night.
It was a little shorter for us, but not much. It was a lot more laid back with not a lot of diving into the movie. So
No, more opportunity to make fun of and enjoy that. So don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we should ever. I don't think we should. We're not too good to watch bad movies. So I don't ever want to turn down a suggestion of watching something, even though I have a preconceived notion that it probably won't be very good. As long as it's entertaining, I'll finish it. You know.
we are
Shall we sign off?
2 for 2 on duds, but from recommendations. But yeah, we're gonna sign off. We'll be back next Wednesday. Next Wednesday and at 8 o'clock Central, and we'll be talking about Inception.
Well, bye.